Welcome. Tonight we question everything we take for granted. We challenge the ground beneath us, the warmth we feel, and the very essence of the color blue. We've built our lives around a quiet belief that Earth is a planet of sunlight. We gaze at space photographs, that iconic blue sphere floating in darkness, and feel at home. We see white clouds swirling over a brilliant ocean and think, this is where we belong. We picture the sea as transparent and sun-drenched, where life exists in full view. But that vision, that comforting blue sphere, is a deception. The world we believe we know isn't the standard. It's a fleeting, fragile anomaly. That stunning blue defining our planet, nothing but physics playing tricks. A fleeting optical phenomenon from sunlight dancing with water molecules. Like paint on a lightless tower. Peel away that surface layer, barely a fraction of the ocean's depth, and blue disappears instantly. Earth's reality isn't color, it's darkness. A choking, crushing, eternal void that's existed for billions of years. 95% of living space on this planet exists in perpetual night, where the sun is merely legend. Why does the ocean fool us so completely? The answer lies in light's physics. Picture yourself on a boat deck mid-Pacific, sun blazing overhead, water appearing crystalline, almost glass-like. But water isn't glass, it's a thief. When sunlight strikes the ocean's surface, it arrives as complete spectral energy. Every rainbow color, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. The instant those photons breach the surface and enter liquid, violent theft begins. Water molecules are hungry. They aggressively devour light energy in precise order, starting with low-energy wavelengths. Red falls first. Red light is fragile, struggling against water's density. Within the first 5 meters, barely a car's length, red is physically erased, absorbed, and converted to heat. Cut your hand at 10 meters depth, and blood wouldn't look red. It would appear nearly black, perhaps muddy green, because no red light exists down there to reflect from it. Descending deeper past 20 meters, the theft continues. Orange wavelengths vanish, then yellow. Water acts as a brutal filter, narrowing the spectrum, stripping away warmth. By 30 or 40 meters deep, only blue survives. Blue light carries high energy. Its short, powerful wavelength dodges water molecules, penetrating deeper than any other color. It scatters everywhere, bouncing surfaceward into your eyes. That's why the ocean looks blue. You're seeing the soul spectrum survivor, the last sunlight fragment the sea hasn't consumed. Even blue can't last forever. Continuing our descent, abandoning the surface world, blue begins fading. It shifts into heavy twilight indigo. The sun above, once a sharp, blinding disk, diffuses into a faint, sickly glow. We're entering Snell's window, that strange optical phenomenon where the entire sky compresses into a shrinking light circle as we descend. We're hovering at humanity's edge. Most will never go deeper. Scuba divers, free divers, even most military submarines operate within this thin sunlit ocean skin. We treat this layer as if it's the entire ocean. We map coral reefs, track tuna, watch dolphins leaping in waves, and believe we understand the sea. We've only scratched the surface, like astronauts landing on the moon, examining dust around their boots and claiming they've explored the entire galaxy. Below us, water grows colder. Pressure builds, pressing against imagination's hull. Indigo turns violet, violet fades to gray. Just beneath this deceptive light layer, the deep's first true mystery waits. A phenomenon so vast, so dense, so alive it fooled Earth's most advanced technology for decades. World War II captains thought it was seafloor, believed it was solid rock. It wasn't rock, it was flesh. 200 meters down, surface blue has faded into deep melancholic twilight. In this dim borderland between sun and shadows, we encounter a mystery that once baffled the world's most powerful military. The story begins in the early 1940s, the world at war, oceans as battlegrounds. American Navy destroyers patrolling the Pacific, hunting enemy submarines using relatively new sonar technology, sending sound pulses into depths, listening for echoes bouncing back. Simple principle: sound hits a submarine, it pings back. Hits ocean floor, it pings back. Operators began noticing something impossible. During daylight, instruments showed solid floor at roughly 300 to 500 meters depth. Sonar waves hit dense mass, returning strong, clear echo, confirming relatively shallow bottom. As sun set, the impossible happened. That floor began moving, rising toward surface, detaching from depths, climbing upward, sometimes reaching all the way to surface waters. Then, as sun rose next morning, the floor sank back to original position. Like Earth's crust was breathing, like the planet itself inhaled and exhaled in 24-hour rhythm. For years, this phenomenon, labeled the phantom bottom, remained classified puzzle. Charts redrawn, captains confused. How could ocean depth change hundreds of meters every night? When the answer finally came, it changed everything we thought we knew about the ocean. Sonar pulses weren't bouncing off rock, sand, or mud. They were bouncing off swim bladders. The Navy had discovered the deep scattering layer, stumbled upon a living carpet of billions upon billions of small fish, shrimp, jellies, and squid packed so densely they formed a flesh wall capable of reflecting sound waves. Not just a fish school, the Deal vertical migration, Earth's largest animal migration. Forget wildebeest crossing the Serengeti. Forget Arctic caribou. In pure biomass, nothing compares. Every night, billions of tons of living creatures rise from dark depths to feed at surface. Every morning, they retreat to shadows. Leading this charge, the tiny, unassuming lanternfish. Hold one, and it wouldn't look monstrous, small, rarely exceeding a finger's length. Yet the lanternfish is the undisputed deep king. Scientists estimate they account for 65% of all deep-sea fish biomass. Weigh every ocean fish, and over half that weight would be lanternfish. They spend days hovering in twilight gloom, deep enough to evade surface predators, shallow enough to conserve energy. Suspended animation, awaiting the signal. The signal is the sun. When sun dips below horizon, the trigger pulls. Lanternfish, along with copepod armies, krill, and siphonophores begin ascending. They're chasing surface plankton. They're also running a gauntlet, a dangerous planetary scale hide-and-seek game. Stay at surface when sun rises, and visual predators, tuna, dolphins, seabirds, will slaughter them. They're darkness creatures, light is their enemy. They must eat quickly under night's cover and retreat before dawn's first rays expose them. Tonight, we're not following them to the feast. We're pushing through the crowd, driving the submersible down against traffic flow. Descending through this living cloud, sonar pings fade. Life density thins. We're leaving the false bottom behind, the Mesopelagic zone, the Twilight zone proper. Down here, engagement rules differ. In a world where light fades to nothing, the most valuable weapon isn't sharp teeth or speed. It's an eye that can see the invisible. Drifting past 200 meters, the false bottom's riotous life fades into gloom above. We're sinking into quiet desperation. Water here is pervasive melancholic gray. Look out the window and you might think it's empty. Dangerous assumption. not empty, watching you. In this zone, survival physics undergoes radical shift. Food is scarce. Darkness provides few hiding places. This layer's defining characteristic isn't cold or pressure. It's a singular, overwhelming obsession with sight. Down here, sun is no longer heat source, but a faint dying signal from another world. Light penetrating this deep is incredibly weak, millions of times dimmer than daylight. A single photon becomes currency more valuable than gold. Catch that photon, register that tiny energy spark, and you find a meal. Miss it, and you starve, or become the meal. This evolutionary economic crisis triggered an optics arms race. Twilight Zone inhabitants have warped their biology to build the planet's most sensitive visual instruments. Some developed eyes occupying half their skulls. Others evolved mirrored retinal layers, tapetum lucidum on steroids, giving light a second absorption chance. One creature took this paranoia to logic-defying levels. A fish resembling a biological machine built by feverish engineer. Drifting silently in gloom, hovering like surrealist painting. Macropina microstoma, the bear-eye fish. At first glance, it looks impossible. Look at its face and you'd see a tiny pouting mouth and two small dark holes above it. For decades, marine biologists assumed those dark holes were eyes. They look like eyes, positioned correctly for eyes. They're not. They're olfactory organs, essentially nostrils for smelling water's chemical signature. To find real eyes, you must look deeper. Inside the fish. The entire barrel-eye head top is a transparent fluid-filled shield, biological cockpit canopy clear as high-grade quartz. Floating inside that fluid skull protected are two glowing green spheres. These are the eyes. They're tubular, barrel-shaped, hence the name, functioning like high-powered telescopic lenses. Right now, as the fish hovers in darkness, those green barrels point straight up. Imagine living your entire life looking through your own skull top. This fish spends existence fixated on sky above, scanning faint gray light filtering from surface, seeking shadows, waiting for jellyfish, shrimp, or siphonophore silhouettes to block light. In the Twilight Zone, a silhouette is betrayal, the only way prey reveals itself. For years, scientists believed the barrel-eye was cursed with stiff neck, forever locked in upward stare. Seemed like fatal flaw. How do you eat what's in front when you can only look at the ceiling? In 2009, Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute researchers captured high-definition footage of a live specimen. They watched amazed as the fish spotted prey. The green barrels inside transparent dome didn't just stare, they rotated. As the fish maneuvered from horizontal to vertical position, eyes swiveled forward, locking onto target with robotic precision. The transparent shield isn't just window, it's armor. The barrel-eye often steals food from siphonophore stinging tentacles. That clear dome protects its delicate, hypersensitive eyes from being stung and blinded while it picks pockets in the deep. If predators evolved telescopic eyes, green filters, and rotating lenses specifically to spot shadows against faint light above, how do you survive as prey? If having a silhouette is death sentence, you can't hide behind rocks. There are no rocks. Can't hide in sand. Bottom is kilometers below. You're suspended in open water. To survive the eyes of paranoia, you must do something seemingly physically impossible. You must erase yourself, become a ghost, 400 to 600 meters deep. In this monochromatic world of gray shadows and paranoia, survival depends entirely on solving one brutal physics problem. How do you hide a solid object in a universe with no cover? In open ocean, there are no rocks to hide behind, no coral reefs to blend into, and seafloor is kilometers below. If a predator swimming beneath looks up, your body naturally blocks faint downwelling light from surface. You become black cutout against gray sky, perfectly outlined for attack. To survive here, you can't just camouflage yourself. You must fundamentally alter how light interacts with your matter. You must erase your own existence. First and most elegant solution: become nothing. Drifting past our window, a creature proving biology can master optical engineering. The cystosoma, a hyperid amphipod, essentially a cousin of tiny beach sand fleas. But down here, it's grown to human hand size. Yet, swimming right next to it, you might never know it's there. The cystosoma is almost entirely transparent. Skin, muscles, even shell clear as glass. Evolution smoothed microscopic surface bumps to reduce light scattering, matching its body's refractive index to seawater's. Light doesn't bounce off. It passes straight through, rendering the animal practically invisible. Total transparency is biologically impossible because two organs must remain opaque: eyes and stomach. Retina needs to absorb light to see. Stomach is full of undigested food, creating dark, visible blob. The cystosoma solves this with frantic geometric trick. It spends life swimming strictly vertical position, standing upright in water column. This posture minimizes cross-section from below, turning opaque stomach into needle-thin line almost impossible to spot. Transparency is luxury reserved for invertebrates. For fish with dense bones and hemoglobin-rich blood, becoming clear is an option. So they choose different path. If you can't let light pass through, you must reflect it. Enter the marine hatchetfish, marvel of compression. Its body is impossibly thin, laterally flattened like silver coin or cleaver blade. Flanks coated in guanin crystal layers, same substance making fish scales shimmer, but here arranged into high-quality biological mirrors. In Twilight Zone's diffuse, non-directional light, these mirrors reflect surrounding water. Predator looks at hatchetfish from side. They don't see fish. They see reflection of dark ocean behind it. Fish becomes environment shard itself, gloom fragment hiding in gloom. Yet mirrors have fatal flaw. They work from side but cast shadow from below. To solve silhouette problem, that deadly black outline against surface light, hatchetfish employs one of nature's most sophisticated biological technologies: counter-illumination. Running along hatchetfish belly bottom is a ridge of specialized organs called photophores, biological LEDs producing soft blue-green light. They don't glow randomly. Hatchetfish painstakingly adjust belly light intensity to match exact brightness of sunlight filtering from above. By producing own light, it fills shadow it would otherwise cast, replaces blocked light with its own creation, effectively erasing silhouette from predator looking up perspective. An active invisibility cloak, dynamic camouflage adjusting in real time. If cloud passes over surface sun, dimming light 500 meters down, hatchetfish dims belly lights to match. A game of perfect equilibrium. This magic trick comes at steep price. Producing light requires energy. Maintaining a body constantly tuning optical output, constantly swimming and watching requires fuel and oxygen. As we descend past 600 meters, those resources begin running out. Water outside is changing, a layer where the planet seems holding its breath. Life here isn't just hiding from predators, it's hiding from suffocation. Past the 600-meter mark, optical arms race's frantic energy fades, replaced by heavy lethargic stillness, a layer acting as biological barrier, ghost town, where life's fundamental fuel is nearly exhausted. The oxygen minimum zone, OMZ, bacteria feeding on falling marine snow overhead have worked so efficiently they've stripped water of almost all dissolved oxygen, creating suffocating belt-wrapping planets' oceans. High-energy predators like tuna, mako sharks, or swordfish can't enter this realm. Dove this deep, their muscles would fail, and they'd drown in the water column. Nature abhors vacuum. Even in this hypoxic wasteland, life found a way to endure by slowing down time itself. Drifting in this breathless void, a creature with name-evoking gothic horror, Vampirotuthis infernalis, literally vampire squid from hell. When first hauled up by early 20th century expeditions, its appearance terrified biologists. It has dark velvet red skin cloak connecting 8 arms, giving vampire wrapping itself in cape appearance. Its eyes are enormous icy blue orbs, seeming to stare with cold intelligence. Arm undersides lined with fleshy spines called cirri, resembling jagged tooth rows. Based on name and anatomy, you'd expect blood-sucking predator-stalking darkness tearing apart live prey. Reality is profound expectation subversion. Vampire squid isn't hunter, it's gentle, lonely garbage collector. In OMZ's oxygen-starved environment, chasing prey requires too much energy, luxury this animal can't afford. Instead, it evolved to be detritivore, doesn't use webbed arms to strangle, deploys 2 long retractable filaments, thin sensory threads trailing into water like fishing lines. These filaments are coated in sticky mucus designed to catch marine snow, falling debris of dead plankton, fecal pellets, crustacean shells drifting from surface. Vampire squid simply floats in dark, waiting for ocean's waste to stick to its lines, then retracts them to scrape off sludge and eat it. To survive where others would suffocate, vampire squid rewrote its internal chemistry. Unlike humans and most fish using iron-based hemoglobin to transport oxygen, giving our blood red color, vampire squid uses hemocyanin, copper-based protein turning its blood blue. Hemocyanin is exceptionally efficient at binding oxygen molecules in cold, low-oxygen environments, allowing squid to extract tiniest air traces from water. Combined with metabolic rate among lowest of all cephalopods, it exists in suspended animation, neutral gear burning almost no calories. 1,000 meters. Twilight Zone's faint residual gloom has extinguished completely, leaving us in absolute, unyielding blackness world. Darkness isn't the only force asserting itself. Descending deeper, ocean weight above transforms from theoretical concept into crushing physical tyranny. Realm where water pressure exceeds 100 atmospheres. On surface, we live at 1 atmosphere pressure. Gentle air embrace we barely notice. Down here, every 10 meters adds another atmosphere weight. By abyssal depths, pressure will equal having large African elephant balanced on single postage stamp, that stamp placed on your thumb. For humans or any air-breathing creature, this environment is instantly lethal. Step outside submersible now, and air in lungs, sinuses, inner ears would compress until solid. Chest cavity would implode, ribs shattering under strain. Deep ocean violence goes far beyond crushing bones. It attacks life's very building blocks. At molecular level, biology relies on shape, proteins, complex machinery powering muscles, digesting food, sending brain signals, must fold into precise, intricate 3D structures to function. Under normal conditions, water molecules gently support these structures. Under extreme hydrostatic pressure, water forces into tiny protein voids, acting like wedge. Pressure squeezes proteins until they unravel, process called denaturation. Essentially, deep ocean tries cooking you without heat. forces enzymes to lose shape and stop working, causing cellular machinery to grind to halt. To survive this crushing vice, deep-sea life had to abandon surface animal structural blueprints. First casualty: air. Most surface fish possess swim bladder, gas-filled sac helping maintain buoyancy. Down here, swim bladder is bomb waiting to implode. Consequently, deep-sea creatures eliminated air pockets entirely, replaced gas with fluids and gelatinous tissues having same density as surrounding water. Since liquids are virtually incompressible, pressure pushes through them rather than against them. Why so many deep-sea inhabitants, from blobfish to deep-sea jellyfish, look flabby, watery, unstructured to our eyes? They're not poorly built, they're built of water to survive water. Structural changes aren't enough to save cell chemistry. To stop proteins from being crushed, deep-sea animals evolved chemical shield. They saturate cells with molecule called trimethylamine N-oxide, TMAO. Think of TMAO as microscopic scaffold. It binds to water molecules, preventing them from forcing into proteins, holding complex shapes together against crushing outside weight. Fascinating tangible side effect you've likely experienced. TMAO is chemical giving rotting fish its distinctive fishy smell. Deeper an animal lives, more TMAO it accumulates in tissues to fight pressure. Abyss monsters aren't just terrifying to look at, they're chemically supercharged with sea scent. 1,000 meters. Official Bathypelagic zone start, poetically known as Midnight Zone. Turn off submersible interior lights now, and outside darkness would be absolute. Suffocating ink-like void where eyes could remain open 100 years and never register single sunlight photon. Logic suggests, in world without light, color should be irrelevant. Why paint house in middle of night? Yet if we flip on external floodlights, shocking transformation occurs. Void suddenly fills with blood color. Drifting past thick quartz glass are creatures of intense saturated scarlet. Deep-sea prawns with fire engine-colored shells, jellyfish like Atala wearing deep crimson skirts, worms resembling neon ruby ribbons. Seems like biological mistake. In surface world, bright red is high contrast signal. Think ladybug, poison dart frog, stop sign. It screams to be seen. Why would animals desperate to hide in dark paint themselves most visible color possible? Answer lies in blue light physics we discussed at surface. Color is an object inherent property. It's simply result of light bouncing off surface hitting your eye. Red apple is only red because it absorbs every rainbow color except red, reflecting that specific wavelength back to you. For object to reflect red light, however, red light must be present in environment to begin with. Remember the theft. Water absorbs long wavelength red light almost immediately, erasing it within first few surface meters. Down here in Midnight Zone, there's absolutely no red light. Only natural illumination comes from bioluminescence, living light produced by other animals. That light is almost exclusively blue or green because those short wavelengths travel furthest in water. When predator scanning for food shines biological blue flashlight onto bright red shrimp, red shell absorbs blue light completely, reflects nothing back. To predator's eye, shrimp isn't red, isn't even gray, it's void. Appears pitch black, merging perfectly with surrounding water. In deep ocean, being bright red is mathematical equivalent of wearing invisibility cloak. In eternal evolution, arms race, no defense is perfect. While prey hides in red spectrum, one predator has broken game rules. Drifting silently in gloom, the stoplight loose-jawed dragonfish, nightmare of anatomy with jaw snapping open to 100 degrees, teeth resembling glass needles. True weapon, though, is located under its eye. Almost every deep ocean creature produces blue light. Dragonfish, however, possesses rare, specialized photophore, capable of emitting red bioluminescence. It sends long wavelength red light beam into darkness, frequency invisible to almost every other abyss animal. Red prawns and jellyfish can't see this light, so don't react to it. They believe they're still safely hidden in dark. Dragonfish can see it. It evolved unique retinal pigment, likely derived from consuming chlorophyll-like bacteria, allowing it to perceive red light. This gives dragonfish private encrypted vision channel. Sniper, equipped with night vision goggles in room full of blind targets. Deeper into midnight zone, passing 1,500-meter mark, hide-and-seek's frantic game we witnessed earlier begins fading. That kind of active hunting requires energy, and energy is one thing this environment can't provide. Swimming fast burns calories. Chasing prey burns calories. In a world where meal might appear once a month, burning fuel without guaranteed return is death sentence. Strategy changes. We're leaving hunters behind, entering domain of the patient. Single light point hovers in void, bobbing gently in current like firefly suspended in ink jar. Faint, glowing with soft hypnotic blue-white pulse. In world where eyes are desperate for photons, this light is irresistible. To passing crustacean or small fish, it looks like marine snow piece or perhaps small glowing worm. Looks like food. Driven by instinct, prey swims toward glow, gets closer, investigates. Then, darkness behind light splits open. In fraction of second, massive jaw pair engulfs water, light, and prey. Trap snaps shut. Melanocetus johnsoni, humpback anglerfish. The deep icon. Creature so nightmarish it's become face of our ocean fear. Its body is globular black sphere, designed not for speed but floating. Essentially mouth with stomach attached. Most sophisticated engineering piece on this animal isn't teeth, but fishing rod growing from forehead. This appendage is called Elysium. Glow-in bulb at tip is Esca. Strange biological truth making this creature truly fascinating. Anglerfish can't make own light. Take scalpel, dissect that glow-in bulb, and you wouldn't find battery cells or electricity. You'd find thrive and live in things colony. Esca is hollow, and inside, live millions of bioluminescent bacteria, most likely from genus Vibrio, one of planet's most elegant symbiosis examples. Relationship is transactional. Anglerfish provides bacteria safe home and constant nutrient supply drawn from its own blood. In return, bacteria provide light, their permanent tenants paying rent in photons. Chemistry of this light is even more remarkable. Inside each tiny bacterial cell, reaction is taking place that puts our best light bulbs to shame. Bacteria possess molecule called luciferin, named after Lucifer, the light bringer. When luciferin reacts with oxygen, aided by enzyme called luciferase, it releases energy as cold light. Unlike filament bulb wasting 90% energy as heat, this bioluminescence is nearly 100% efficient. Light without heat. Perfect illumination for cold, dark world. Life in Midnight Zone presents even greater challenge than finding food. Ocean is vast, dark, three-dimensional. Population density incredibly low. You might swim lifetime and never meet another member of your own species. So if you're female anglerfish drifting in dark and finally encounter male, stakes are infinite. Can't afford to let him go. Can't risk courtship dance. Can't risk losing him in shadows. To solve this problem, anglerfish evolved reproductive strategy so horrific that when scientists first discovered it, they refused to believe it was real. They didn't find two fish mating. They found creature that had dissolved its own face for love. 2,000 meters. Midnight zone loneliness is palpable here. Water is vast, black, seemingly empty. In this desolate expanse, chances of two solitary creatures meeting are infinitesimally small. For species to survive here, finding mate isn't just challenge, it's statistical miracle. Miracles in deep ocean are too unreliable to count on. Evolution devised solutions so radical, so physically intrusive, it challenges our very definition of what it means to be individual. When early 1920s, marine biologists first examined anglerfish specimens brought up in trawler nets, they noticed something puzzling. Every single large, terrifying fish with lure was female. They measured half-meter or more, equipped with those massive jaws and glowing baits. Males, however, were nowhere found. They searched nets for lookalikes, male counterparts, but found none. What they did find were curious parasites attached to female bellies. These looked like tiny vestigial fish, often just few centimeters long, biting onto larger host skin. For years, scientists assumed these were babies, or perhaps different species entirely, feeding on mother. They were wrong. Those tiny, withered attachments were males. Male anglerfish life is tragedy written in biological code. He's born into world as dwarf, fraction of mate size, possesses no lure, has no large teeth, has stunted digestive system making long-term survival impossible. Born with ticking clock, limited energy reserve provided by liver. His sole purpose, entire reason for existing, find female before he starves to death. To aid this desperate quest, he's equipped with one superpower, a nose. Male anglerfish has colossal olfactory organs, nostrils occupying huge head portion. He's essentially swimming nose. He sniffs currents, searching for specific pheromones released by female. Follows this chemical trail through crushing dark, mile after mile, driven by singular biological imperative. When he finally finds her, there's no courtship, no dance, no gentle nuzzling. He swims straight to her flank and bites her, never lets go. What happens next, horror or beauty, depending on perspective, begins after bite. Male releases specialized enzyme acting like chemical acid. It begins dissolving his own mouth skin and female's belly skin. Tissues melt, weep, then fuse together. Not just latching on, breakdown of physical boundaries, fusion goes deeper than skin. Eventually, male's blood vessels merge with female's. Her heart begins pumping blood into his body. His waste products flow into her system to be filtered. They become single organism with two bodies. Once this connection establishes, male undergoes terrifying metamorphosis. Because he no longer needs to hunt, eyes wither and fall off. Fins atrophy. Internal organs, aside from essentials, dissolve. He's reduced to nothing more than living testicle pair, fed by female blood, existing solely to provide sperm whenever she's ready to spawn. Sexual parasitism. It solves a deep problem. Since finding mate is so difficult, this strategy guarantees that once you find one, you never ever lose them. Some females have been found with up to 8 males fused to their bodies, 8 lives absorbed into one. Past 2,500 meter mark, water pressure is now 250 atmospheres, enough to crush tank like soda can. Most pressing threat here isn't water weight, it's water emptiness. Deep in Bathypelagic zone, place so removed from productive surface it's essentially biological desert. In this vast nutrient-poor wasteland, meal might drift by once a week, once a month, perhaps once a year. In such unforgiving economy, golden rule dictates every predator's shape. Beggars can't be choosers. If you're predator drifting in dark and finally encounter another living thing, squid, fish, shrimp, you can't afford to stop and measure it. Can't ask if it fits in your mouth. Can't worry whether stomach is big enough to hold it. You have to eat it. No matter size, no matter shape, you must consume it because you don't know when or if you'll ever eat again. This brutal evolutionary pressure sculpted Earth's most disproportionate animal. Uropharynx pelechinoids, gulper eel, often called pelican eel. See one swimming casually in dark with mouth closed and you might mistake it for black ribbon. Mostly tail, long, slender whip-like filament trailing behind modest head. It looks frail, skeletal, possesses tiny eyes, barely any pectoral fins, very little muscle mass. Looks like creature a current gust could snap in half. This fragility, however, is calculated trade-off. Gulper eel sacrificed everything, speed, strength, vision, armor, to invest all evolutionary points into single attribute, volume. When it detects prey, gulper eel undergoes transformation resembling body horror film special effect. Its jaw isn't attached to skull the way yours or mine is. It's loosely hinged, connected by elastic ligaments allowing it to swing freely. When eel opens mouth, jaw unspools. It expands outward and downward, creating cavernous, terrifying opening, often wider than eel's entire body length. Think of umbrella suddenly opening in violent windstorm. That's gulper eel's face. Throat skin is distinctively pleated and elastic, designed to stretch like high-altitude weather balloon. This allows gulper eel to engulf massive volume of water and prey. Doesn't bite victims, swallows space they occupy, swims over them like living net. Once prey is trapped inside that massive buccal cavern, eel pumps excess water out through gills and swallows catch whole. Because stomach is just as stretchy as mouth, and because it lacks ribs that would constrict expansion, it can consume animals larger than itself. Imagine python swallowing deer, but happening in seconds, suspended in zero gravity. How does such slow, weak swimmer catch anything in first place? Can't chase down fast-moving squid. Answer lies at that long whip-like tail's very tip. Look closely at tail end, and you'll find tiny pink photophore. It glows in dark. Scientists believe eel uses this pink light as sophisticated lure. In pitch black, eel likely positions tail near mouth, waving glowing tip gently. To curious crustacean or predator looking for small meal, that pink light looks like prey. They swim toward it, realizing too late that darkness behind light isn't empty water. It's throat waiting to expand. 3,000 meters. Gulper eel solitude and anglerfish's lonely vigil have painted picture of deep ocean as isolation place. We imagine abyss as hermit realm, where every creature is island fighting for itself. Our lights cut through eternal blackness and encounter shape defying this rule. At first, it looks like mistake. Stretching across porthole view, long, thin white line. Looks like tangled fishing line or perhaps mucus rope extending endlessly into dark. We follow it with submersible. It goes on for 10 meters, 20 meters, 40 meters. Longer than blue whale, longer than submersible itself. Dominates water column like silent suspended highway, not trash piece, giant siphonophore pria dubia, and detail breaking human mind. You're not looking at single animal. You're looking at city. Siphonophore challenges very definition of what it means to be individual. In our world, animal is single discrete unit. You have heart, stomach, legs, all parts of you. Siphonophore operates on different logic, colonial superorganism. That 40-meter-long rope is composed of thousands of tiny individual bodies called zooids. These zooids are genetically identical, clones of original embryo, but morphed into radically different shapes to perform specific jobs. They've specialized so deeply they can no longer survive on their own. At colony's very front, nectophores, pilots. They look like pulsating transparent bells. Their only job, pump water, dragging massive colony through ocean. They have no mouths, can't eat, simply living engines. Behind them trail gastrozooids, stomachs. They have mouths but can't swim. Their only job, liquefy prey and absorb nutrients, which they pump through shared stem to feed rest of colony. Guard in them all, dactylozoids, soldiers. Long, thin tentacles armed with millions of toxic stinging cells called nematocysts. They form death curtain hanging down into water, snagging any shrimp or fish foolish enough to swim into colony. Imagine if your hand was separate animal, your stomach another animal, your legs third animal, all holding each other, sharing single bloodstream, working in perfect synchronization. That's siphonophore, biological hive mind, creature that erased line between one and many. In Midnight Zone's motionless water, this strategy is devastatingly effective. Single Praia dubia can deploy tentacle net covering hundreds of square meters, doesn't need to hunt, simply occupies space, transforms vast empty water volume into minefield. We tend to think of deep ocean as silent grave. Without crashing waves, crying seagulls, or boat engine hum, we imagine abyss as place of perfect heavy quiet, misconception born of our own limited senses. Turn off submersible thrusters and listen, really listen with right instruments, and you'd realize ocean isn't silent at all. It's cacophony, roaring, clicking, whistling, groaning. At specific depth, usually around 1,000 meters depending on latitude, ocean transforms into planetary telephone line-defying acoustics laws as we understand them in air. The SOFAR channel, sound, fixing, and ranging. Ocean sound speed is controlled by two opposing forces, temperature and pressure. Near surface, water is warm, so sound travels fast. Descend deeper, water gets colder, sound slows down. Even deeper, crushing pressure takes over, making water denser, causing sound to speed up again. Sandwiched between these two high-speed zones, a sweet spot, channel of minimum sound speed. When sound wave enters this channel, it gets trapped. If wave tries bending up toward warmer surface, speed change refracts it back down. If tries bending down toward high pressure deep, it's refracted back up. Sound is focused into narrow beam bouncing back and forth like light inside fiber optic cable. In this channel, low-frequency noise doesn't dissipate after few miles. It travels, can cross entire ocean basins. Blue whales singing off Ireland coast can effectively be heard by another whale in Caribbean, thousands of kilometers away. The cetacean internet, global communication network that existed millions of years before humanity laid first telegraph cable. Since late 1980s, sonar systems have tracked single solitary voice in North Pacific, call of whale, but unlike any other. Blue whales vocalize at 10 to 39 Hz frequency. Fin whales operate at 20 Hz. This individual sings at much higher pitch, 52 Hz. This frequency mismatch earned it nickname loneliest whale in world. Because its call is at such unique frequency, scientists speculate other whales may not be able to hear it. Or if they do, they don't recognize it as one of their own. It swims alone, migrating up and down Pacific coast, calling out into SOFAR channel year after year, but never receiving answer. Its path doesn't align with known migration routes of other species. Ghost in machine, unique acoustic signature drifting through dark singing song that only our machines are listening to. Descending toward Gulf of Mexico seabed, roughly 1,000 meters down, our sonar picks up flat reflective surface ahead. Visually, it makes no sense. We're already underwater, immersed in ocean. Yet looking out porthole, we see what appears to be sandy beach surrounding distinct water body. Lake sitting on sea bottom, it has shoreline, has shimmering surface, even has tiny waves rippling across it. Not mirage, and certainly not place you'd ever want to swim. Brine pool, specifically formation so lethal that scientists who discovered it in 2015 named it Jacuzzi of Despair. Lake inside ocean existence seems to violate physics laws, but it's actually density demonstration. Water inside this pool isn't normal seawater, super concentrated brine dissolving from ancient salt deposits buried beneath seafloor since Jurassic period. This brine is 4 to 5 times saltier than surrounding ocean, making it incredibly dense and heavy. Because of this extreme density, it doesn't mix with seawater above it. Instead, it sinks, settling into seabed depressions, forming distinct separated layer. Visually, Jacuzzi of Despair is hauntingly beautiful. Pool edges are lined with mussel rim clustering like beach tourists, and water itself shimmers with iridescent quality due to refractive difference between brine and ocean. This beauty, however, is trap. Pool is cauldron of toxic chemicals, rich in methane and hydrogen sulfide, completely devoid of oxygen. Warm, salty poison bath. Jacuzzi horror reveals itself when you look closely at lake bed, graveyard. Scattered across pool bottom are bodies of dozens of large crabs and amphipods. These creatures, likely scavenging for food, wandered too close to edge. Perhaps they slipped, or perhaps were enticed by methane smell. Moment they crossed shoreline and fell into brine, fate was sealed. Hypersaline water shock would have caused massive osmotic stress, likely inducing seizures or paralysis within minutes. They suffocated and died right there, perfectly preserved in toxic soup. Most disturbing detail: crabs don't rot. In normal ocean, dead crab would be consumed by scavengers or decomposed by bacteria within days. Jacuzzi of Despair is so toxic and salty that not even bacteria can survive inside it. It pickles its victims. 4,000 meters. Abyssopelagic zone. Term derived from Greek word abyssus, meaning bottomless. For centuries, sailors and early cartographers believed this region was void of infinite depth, drifting over abyssal plains, vast flat sediment expanses covering nearly 50% of Earth's surface. Largest habitat on our planet, yet remains less mapped than Mars' surface. Look out window now, and you'd see landscape resembling desolate lunar prairie. Endless, flat, monochromatic, covered in thick ooze layer. Scientific term for soft gray mud composed of diatom, radiolarian, and foraminifera microscopic skeletons that have been raining down from surface for millions of years. In such featureless wasteland, where there are no rocks to hide behind and food is swept along unpredictable currents, swimming is inefficient energy use. If you want to survive here, you don't chase your food. You become statues standing silently on soft mud. Bathypteroi grallator, tripod fish. At first glance, doesn't look like fish at all. Looks like abandoned industrial equipment piece or three-legged camera stand. Tripod fish took standard fish anatomy and stretched it to absurd proportions. Pelvic fins and caudal tail fin have elongated into rigid bony rays that can grow to be more than meter long. By locking these rays in place, fish creates stable tripod structure, allowing it to stand on seafloor, hovering body distinctively above mud. By elevating itself, tripod fish lifts head into current boundary layer, just high enough to catch small crustaceans and zooplankton drifting by, low enough to remain stable. It faces into current, turning mouth into passive intake valve. Abyssal plains present problem even greater than hunger: loneliness. Population density down here is pitifully low. You could stand on tripod for 10 years and never see another member of your own species. Evolution, ruthless as always, solved this by removing gender variable entirely. Tripod fish is simultaneous hermaphrodite. Every single individual possesses both fully functional male and female reproductive organs. If tripod fish lives entire life without ever meeting another soul, it has fail-safe, can reproduce with itself, can release own sperm to fertilize own eggs, spawning clone generation just to ensure species doesn't vanish from abyss. Drifting through deep ocean, exploring different strategies life employs to survive crush, we must confront creature that took exact opposite approach. Instead of fighting pressure with bone and spines, this animal chose to surrender to it completely. Creature you likely know better as punchline than living being. Viral sensation that became face of ugliness itself. Cycrolutes marcitus, blobfish. You've undoubtedly seen photograph. Shows gelatinous pink sludge pile sitting on plastic tray. Possesses bulbous drooping nose, wide frowning mouth, watery eyes seeming to stare into middle distance with profound existential misery expression. In 2013, Ugly Animal Preservation Society held public vote, and blobfish won by landslide, officially crowned world's ugliest animal. Since then, it's become meme, plush toy, symbol of everything gross and unappealing about deep sea. We owe blobfish apology. Image we mock, face we laugh at, is not portrait of living animal in natural habitat. Crime scene photo, image of corpse that suffered catastrophic physical trauma. At depths where blobfish lives, typically between 600 to 1,200 meters, gas-filled bladder is liability. External pressure is roughly 120 times greater than its surface. So blobfish evolutionarily abandoned swim bladder entirely, instead adapted by altering very composition of its flesh. Its body is made of gelatinous substance with density slightly less than water, essentially living buoyancy aid, floating jelly mass hovering effortlessly above seafloor. Has very little muscle, no distinct skeleton to speak of, soft, pliable cartilage. In natural environment, surrounded by ocean's crushing hug which holds its body together, blobfish actually looks like fish. Has structural shape, tapered tail, broad, slightly grumpy head. Not beauty queen certainly, but functional, streamlined organism perfectly adapted to high-pressure home. Tragedy occurs when research vessel or deep-sea trawler drags net across bottom. When blobfish is caught and hauled to surface, it experiences depressurization event that's violent and fatal. As net rises, pressure drops rapidly from 120 atmospheres to 1. Gases dissolved in gelatinous tissues expand explosively. Cell membranes rupture. Structural integrity, which relied on external ocean pressure to hold it in shape, completely fails. By the time it's dumped onto boat deck, it is literally melted. Laughing at blobfish for looking ugly on surface is equivalent to throwing human being into space vacuum without suit, then mocking them for exploding. Past 5,000 meter mark, leaving misunderstood blobfish and stationary tripod fish domain behind, entering depth-pushing biological plausibility limits, realm where darkness seems to possess heavy, watchful quality. On November 11, 2007, near Shell oil platform in Gulf of Mexico, remote-controlled vehicles found ghost. Footage captured that day is grainy, greenish, eerily silent. Yet it's become one of most famous deep-sea video pieces in existence. As ROV pans across black water, it reveals Creepier instantly triggering deep primal dissonance in human brain. Squid, but looks nothing like muscular jet-propelled hunters we know from surface. Magna pinna, bigfin squid. Its body is small and pale, topped with massive flapping fins resembling elephant ears or moth wings. Horror or wonder, depending on threshold for unknown, lies in its arms. Most squid have 8 arms and 2 longer feeding tentacles. Magna pinna breaks this rule, possesses 10 identical appendages, indistinguishable from one another, incredibly long, stretching down into darkness for 4, maybe 8 meters. They're thin as wire, white as bone, and don't drift organically in current. Instead, they hang straight down from body, rigid and vertical, then abruptly bend. Every single arm is held out at perfect 90-degree angle, creating distinct elbows before dropping vertically again. This geometry is what disturbs us. In nature, we're accustomed to curves, spirals, fluid motion. We're not used to right angles. Seeing Creepier with elbows hanging in abyss looks artificial, like marionette puppet with strings cut or stick figure drawn by frightened child. Scientific understanding of Magna pinna is frustratingly scarce. We've never captured live specimen, never found dead body in good condition. Everything we know comes from these chance encounters with industrial cameras. We suspect elbow posture is feeding strategy. By spreading arms wide and letting sticky microscopic tentacle extensions drag through water or along seafloor, it creates massive sensory net, essentially trolling for food, waiting for small shrimp or zooplankton to bump into those wire-thin lines. 6,000 meters, leaving vast flat abyssal plains behind. Geology outside our window has undergone violent transformation. Sediment is no longer flat prairie, but steep jagged slope plunging downward into Earth's crust. Hadal zone, named after Hades, Greek god of underworld. These are trenches, Mariana, Tonga, Kermadec. Deep tectonic scars formed where one plate is forced beneath another. Here, pressure exceeds 800 atmospheres, weight so immense it feels less like water, more like solid crushing vice. You might expect such hostile environment to be devoid of complex life. Dead zone, where biology simply gives up. Look closely at footage captured by robotic lander in Izu Ogasawara Trench, at depth of exactly 8,336 meters, record confirmed as recently as 2023. And you'll see something seeming to defy physics laws. Not monster, not armored tank built to withstand crush, small, pale, tadpole-like creature, moving with gentle fluttering grace. Hadal snailfish, Pseudoliparus. Its skin is translucent and gelatinous, so thin you can see its liver through side. Has no scales, no sharp spines, looks fragile as wet tissue paper piece. Yet this delicate animal is undisputed deep mountaineer, living at absolute deepest point any vertebrate has ever been found. Snailfish existence at these depths is masterpiece of biochemical engineering, but also story about limits. To survive pressure that would crush titanium submarine, snailfish pack cells with trimethylamine N oxide, TMAO, pressure-fighting molecule we discussed earlier. TMAO acts as structural pillar stopping proteins from collapsing. Deep rule is simple. Deeper you go, more TMAO you need to keep cells functioning. This chemical solution, however, comes with mathematical deadline. TMAO doesn't just fight pressure, it also interacts with water, increases solute concentration inside fish body, making internal fluids saltier. Biochemists have calculated that at depth of approximately 8,400 meters, this balance hits hard, insurmountable wall. At this specific depth, TMAO concentration required to counteract pressure would make fish cells just as salty as ocean itself, state called isosmotic. If fish tried going just few meters deeper, it would need even more TMAO. This would make cells saltier than seawater. Result would be catastrophic. Ocean would rush into fish body in uncontrollable flood to balance salinity, causing cells to swell and rupture. Biochemical wall, invisible barrier drawn in water by thermodynamics laws. Snailfish we see at 8,336 meters aren't just lucky. They're living on razor's edge of what's chemically possible. They're standing at summit of their own Mount Everest, gasping in thin air, unable to take one more step upward. Except here, they're at bottom, unable to go 1 meter deeper. 10,935 meters. Challenger Deep, lowest point in Mariana Trench, effectively planet's basement. If you stepped out onto sediment here, water column above your head would exert pressure of over 1,000 atmospheres, roughly equivalent to person trying to hold up 50 jumbo jets. At this depth, biology physics has stripped away almost everything we recognize as life. There are no snailfish here. They were stopped kilometers above by limits of their own chemistry. No crabs, no sharks, no squid. Look closer at mud. Scattered across bottom, nestled in fine sediment like shipwreck debris, are strange lumpy shapes. Some are small like fist, others large as grapefruit or even dinner plate, look like discarded sponges or perhaps crumbled aluminum foil balls dropped from boat, not rocks, alive, xenophyophores. Without doubt, most alien creatures on Earth. Detail making them impossible to comprehend isn't their shape but biological definition. Each of these lumps, some measuring 20 centimeters across, is single cell. Pause and consider that statement's absurdity. In biological world, we know cell is microscopic, building block, tiny brick in larger organism wall. You need microscope just to see one. Your own body is composed of approximately 30 trillion cells working in concert. Down here in crushing dark, life decided teamwork is too expensive. Complexity is liability. So xenophyophores remained singular. They're amoebas that grew to human head size, delicate giant cytoplasm bags containing thousands of nuclei floating freely, but enclosed within single continuous outer membrane. Their name, xenophyophore, comes from Greek meaning bearer of foreign bodies. Tells you exactly how they survive. These single-celled giants are ultimate hoarders. Lacking hard skeleton of their own, they crawl almost imperceptibly through mud, picking up tiny sand grains, sharp shell fragments, volcanic dust. They secrete sticky organic glue to bind these particles together, building fragile, intricate shell called test that protects soft, gelatinous bodies from currents and predators. They're architects who build own bones out of ocean's trash. Sediment in Hadal trenches isn't just mud, it's toxin sink. Heavy metals and pollutants entering ocean eventually sink to bottom, accumulating in trenches like dust in gutter. Xenophyophores don't just tolerate this toxicity, they seem to thrive on it. Scientists analyzing these creatures found their bodies contain incredibly high concentrations of lead, uranium, mercury, levels that would kill almost any other animal instantly. They're naturally radioactive, highly toxic, living hazardous waste filters sitting silently in dark, sifting through mud to extract bacteria and organic particles, absorbing planet's poisons as side effect. For centuries, we believed all Earth life, including xenophyophores, was ultimately dependent on sun. We thought oxygen could only be produced by plants and algae through photosynthesis. We believed deep ocean was just consumer, breathing oxygen that sank from surface. In July 2024, scientists' team working in Deep Pacific discovered textbooks were wrong. They found something on seafloor that was breathing, but it wasn't alive. Scientists conducting research in Clarion-Clipperton Zone, vast Pacific Ocean stretch between Hawaii and Mexico, had sent landers down to Abyssal Plain, 4,000 meters deep, to measure oxygen consumption at seafloor. They expected numbers to slowly drop as bacteria and deep-sea fauna consumed available air. Instead, sensors reported something impossible. Oxygen levels were going up. At first, researchers assumed equipment was broken. They recalibrated, used different methods, sent new sensors down. Result was consistent. In total darkness, 4 kilometers beneath waves, massive amounts of fresh oxygen were being generated. Source of this dark oxygen wasn't plant, not hidden algae colony. Rocks scattered across abyss sediment, millions of black potato-sized lumps called polymetallic nodules. Geological oddities taking millions of years to form, growing layer by layer around nucleus like shark tooth or shell fragment, precipitating metals directly from seawater. 2024 study revealed they're electrically active. Unique layering of different metals inside these nodules creates potential difference. They're effectively natural geobatteries. When researchers stuck probes into single nodule surface, they measured voltage up to 0.95 volts. When voltage on these rock surfaces reaches roughly 1.5 volts, it triggers chemical process known as seawater electrolysis. Electricity physically rips water molecules apart, splits H2O, separating hydrogen from oxygen. Oxygen is then released into water, creating localized life-sustaining air bubble in middle of dead zone. This discovery changes everything we thought we knew about life origins. If seafloor has been generating own dark oxygen for billions of years via geology, then first aerobic life forms might have evolved in deep long before sun became factor. This revelation comes with bitter irony. Very nodules producing this oxygen, sustaining xenophyophores and deep ghosts, are exact same rocks humanity is desperate to harvest. These polymetallic nodules are packed with cobalt and nickel required to build lithium-ion batteries for electric cars and smartphones. We call it green transition. To save atmosphere above, we're preparing to send massive robotic harvesters down to strip mine ocean floor. We're preparing to destroy alien Earth before we've even finished mapping it. Depth gauge reads 10,928 meters, hovering just above Challenger Deep Bottom, deepest known point on Earth's crust, place of solitude so profound that fewer human beings have visited this spot than have walked on moon surface. In 2019, when explorer Victor Vescovo piloted his titanium submersible to this exact spot to break world record for deepest solo dive, he looked out viewport and saw something shattering isolation illusion. Sitting half buried in ancient gray silt, drifting gently in weak current caused by thrusters, was not sea monster, not alien structure, plastic grocery bag. Think about sheer statistical improbability of that object. That bag was likely manufactured in Asian or North American factory, used for 20 minutes to carry groceries, discarded, then traveled thousands of kilometers, sinking through ocean layer after layer, dodging sharks, whales, currents, to land at absolute mathematical world bottom. It arrived before we did. This discovery illustrates terrifying principle of ocean geography, gravity funnel. We tend to treat ocean as bottomless pit, believing when we throw something away, it vanishes. There is no away. Continental shelves slope down to abyssal plains, and abyssal plains slope down into trenches. Gravity pulls everything, every discarded net, every bottle cap, every microplastic fiber, downward into these V-shaped crust scars. Trenches are planet's ultimate drain. Scientists have begun sampling amphipods, tiny shrimp-like scavengers living in these trenches. When they dissected them, they found plastic fibers woven into digestive tracts. In fact, new species discovered in Mariana Trench was found so contaminated with polyethylene terephthalate, PET, that researchers officially named it Erythrines plasticus. We have written our signature into very DNA of Earth's deepest life. We've managed to pollute blood of creatures that will never see sun. With this sobering realization, it's time to leave. We drop ballast weights, steel plates falling into mud, leaving one final footprint, and submersible begins to rise. We watch depth gauge scroll backward through history. We leave toxic xenophyophores and dark oxygen nodules behind. Rise past biochemical wall at 8,400 meters where snailfish dance on death's edge. Drift up through abyssal plains, leaving stationary tripod fish in their eternal wait. Pass midnight zone, bidding farewell to gulper eels' desperate hunger and anglerfish's fused romance. As we cross 500-meter mark, blue light begins reasserting itself. Watch window. For hours, eyes have adjusted to absolute suffocating blackness. Now, water chemistry is reversing theft it committed on way down. First, black softens into deep, heavy indigo, bruised sky color. Then, as sun's photons begin battering water molecules once again, indigo shifts into rich royal blue. We're re-entering light world. Breaching surface, hatch opens and sensory overload hits you. Salt and iodine smell. Wave roar. Sun's blinded unshielded power. Feels like waking from heavy, vivid dream. Looking out at flat, glittering horizon, you realize you can never look at ocean same way again. You now know blue marble is mask. You know true Earth reality isn't sunlit surface where we live. True Earth is dark, cold, crushing. Norm for this planet is midnight zone blackness.